So Osha choosing to queue up the Tempo Mage to start with, and he's found a odd rogue, which is generally not a great matchup because the rogue tends to get on the board very solidly with the use of the dagger. It's really hard to stick any sort of minion threats, and the odd rogue has potential to kill you very, very quickly.
I think that's the thing with Tempo Mage as well, is the fact that if you don't have anything early on against Tempo Mage, then it becomes, you know, life becomes very difficult, doesn't it? And it just gets to the stage where it's like, what more can you do? Especially if you did have, like, you know, I've played some Tempo Mages where they get 2 mana worms right off the bat and stuff like that, and I'm just like, really? Like,
I mean, talking about that, that's what you want in this matchup, and
Osha
has actually kept Sorcerer's Apprentice, which I can't say is the wisest decision against an odd rogue. It lines up incredibly poorly against the dagger, just dies straight away to it. And it's a card blocking those offensive starts you were talking about with the mana worms, which is really what you want. He does have the Alanef, however, which we were talking about a bit earlier, which is a very key card often. Might be a little bit too slow against the odd rogue, but we'll see.
Yeah, there's a few things to take into account as well. Even if he does put the Sorcerer's Apprentice down, of course he's got the agent to clean that up, or of course he does have the deckhand plus the weapon to clean that up, so that shouldn't be an issue. But yeah, it's the Alunif which is going to be an issue for Falcone at that stage.
For Falcone is like incredibly good. You've got the Henchclan Thug, which is really hard for Osha to deal with unless he has an explosive runes down now, which is usually not going to be the case, especially without a Kirin Tor Mage in hand. And then if that Henchclan Thug sticks, it's just going to kind of snowball out of control, and you have ways to deal with the board with, like you said, like the Southsea Deckhand and SI7 agent. But looking quite good for Falcone right now.
And having 2 thugs ain't really too bad either, looking at that start. And I think one thing to remember as well is the fact that Osha did remove his counterspell from his mulligan, which I don't blame him. Some people, if they do get the opportunity, will play Coldblood with one 1-mana minion straight away. But, you know, with the Mage Hero power, it's not going to be too much use, and I think he knew that as well. Coldblood probably won't get used till later on, which is why he obviously threw it away.
So, would have loved to see that card on turn 2, I think, for Osha. Would have helped at least contest the board a little bit. Wouldn't have actually done too much. Kind of did the same job as a ping, really, because Falcone had to swing his dagger anyway for this thug. But it would have drawn through his deck. Certainly better than the Apprentice, which he didn't even end up playing on turn 2. So now for Osha, he doesn't have any way to deal with this thug immediately, barring a very lucky Cinderstorm, which is what he's going for. Maybe he's looking to deal with it over 2 turns, or he's looking for an incredible high roll here.
And it's not going to happen.
Amazing.
Yeah, I think he knew that kind of the case, but when he puts that other thug down, it's going to be...
It's probably going to be lights out for Osha pretty soon in this game, I imagine.
It will. I'm actually quite happy to see this. I shouldn't say that, but it just annoys me so much. But, of course, with Odd Rogue, it can be very good. That Mana Worm, which he could have really done with earlier, does have it now. Can make some use of it, but it'll just get traded off straight away as soon as he gets the opportunity, and Osha knows that, of course.
I mean, this comes back to the mulligan, really. You're going second in an unfavourable matchup. Odd Rogue particularly is very, dangerous against your deck because the dagger does so much work against your minions. So you should really be going for those sort of ultra high roll starting hands with these mana worms. It's a little bit too late now, I'd say. Like drawing cards, I think it's not really going to be doing enough to get you back into this game.
Yeah, even at this stage, he's got plenty of options. He's got both deckhands, he's got the agent to clean up, he can, of course, use his weapon as well. He's got so many different options, and I'm sure he wouldn't mind, even if he did trade off anyway, which of course he won't. And those thugs are going to get out of hand, and it's already going to be in a way of Falcone.
Well, he could have guaranteed the lethal on the follow-up, pretty much. But this seems a winning strategy. Anyway, sorry. Really nothing Osha can do in this spot.
Yeah, it's extremely hard spot. When I saw that first thug, I was like, okay, he's going to have to deal with, a few issues here, but having the second one, it kind of just pans it out. That's probably the quickest game I've actually ever had to do this season so far, because there's been a lot of mix of like aggro, control. Normally people rope it until the very last second to try and figure out any kind of scenario. But, you know, it's like you said, you know, either you win quick or lose quick. Losing quick was definitely an understatement there, of course. And already Falcone, straight off the bat, 1-0, no mucking about really from him.
I mean, yeah, it could be a case of maybe a misban earlier on. Odd Rogue obviously performs really well against the field here. Osha choosing to leave it up over the even Warlock, which I believe the Tempo Mage has a better matchup against. And it might be a case where this Mage is going to struggle to find the win against all these aggressive decks that Falcone's brought. Yeah,
because I've played a lot of even lock, and with that, it's extremely difficult to deal with Tempo Mage just in general. It's even if like you have something to deal with the Mana Worms later on, by then it's way too much, and the 2 fireballs or the frostbots normally clear things up and say, you know, job's done, you know, that's it, thanks for playing, and all that stuff. And of course now with the second game, so the Odd Rogue has already done its job as it normally does this season, but he's still got this. Sorry if we look here. So he's still got his Secret Hunter from Osha, he's still got his Zoo as well, but it still has that Tempo Mage that can maybe do something against these other decks, but it's going to be very difficult for Osha at this stage.
Yeah, I'm struggling to find the win, because against Druid is pretty bad generally as a Tempo Mage to face a Druid. Things like Malfurion can completely shut you out of the game. Against the Hunter, it can probably do quite well. It's not a very minion base deck. There is a few synergies here, as we can see with the Razormaw. But let's talk about the matchup we've got now, which is Zoo against this mid-range sort of tempo secret Hunter. And this is pretty good starting hand, I'd say, for Osha.
Oh, 3 weeks in a row, and the third time I've seen Kelesif right at the start. I think I did it with Kieran. I did it with Toast Monster last time. I think we saw 3 in a row. It might be with Leroy, I can't remember. It might be with Toast Monster, I think it was. But literally 3 Kelesifs in a row, and yeah, you couldn't really say anything about it. But now Osha's got one of his own now, and I think he needs as much advantage as possible, especially come up against this Secret Hunters from Falcone.
So Falcone's got, he knows he's up against a Zoo. Just thinking what he wants to keep in his opening hand. He's going for the Wandering Monster, so it looks like he's probably going for a Spellstone sort of strategy, saying, if I get the Spellstone and if I put these Wandering Monsters down, they're going to probably contest the early game of Osha quite well. Maybe Osha misplays a little bit against these secrets, I don't know. But if I get that Spellstone upgraded, then I've got my tempo swing. Unfortunately, he doesn't have the Spellstone. Choosing to coin out the secret.
Of course, you know, Zoo's going to be looking to try and get that wide board as soon as possible. And, you know, Falcone's going to have a, plenty of options anyway. At least with these secrets, he's going to be able to
it's interesting
get something on the board.
Osha chooses to attack here. If you're thinking hard about this, Falcone kept this card and he coined it out turn 1. What secret is that likely to be? Is it likely to be a freezing trap? Probably not. Is it likely to be explosive or venom strike or etc, etc? Probably not also. He should have had a good read that that was going to be a Wandering Monster, and attacking into the secret there doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Literally for a split second from that screen, I thought he was going to put down freezing trap. I was getting a bit worried then. I was like, well, you know, if we want to give Osha more of an advantage, then of course go ahead. But
I mean, it's honestly not the worst thing to freezing trap, to be honest, because it means that your 4-1 is likely to attack face again. Osha probably doesn't want to be playing a 4-mana 2-2, even if it does have the Kelesif effect. So, honestly, secret freezing trap there, just to push another 4 face damage, is kind of appealing to me.
That's quite an interesting one, because I never really saw it like that. I just saw it as though, you know, I know the Zoo's job is also to try and get a wider board as possible to beat Falcone's Secret Hunter, but
I mean, of course, for Falcone, he hasn't got the Spellstone in hand, so if he's going to win this, it's likely through some sort of burn strategy rather than going completely for board. He does have Subject 9 in hand, although he has played a few of his secrets already, so it will be okay, at least, in the future. But without that Spellstone, these secrets are kind of just delaying, unless Falcone can kind of switch gears and just go for a full face strategy. This 2-4 on the board is actually really quite annoying for him, because he would like to be able to start swinging this bow towards face. And Osha, again, is deciding to attack the face here, which I can't really agree with. You're just kind of losing tempo, which you don't really need to against things like the second Wandering Monster. This 2/4 taunt could have just been dealt with, or just left there. You didn't actually need to attack at all.
Yeah, do you feel like you should have just left it as it was and then just go on from there?
I mean, it's reasonable. One of the strategies you can do against these Hunter decks is not proc any secrets until you're ready to be able to deal with them. It's kind of a case that if you've ever played Dungeon Run against that secret trap room where you just do nothing for so long until you can actually deal with everything. That's kind of the case of what you want to be doing against these secret hunters a lot of the time. Build up your board, and then once you've got enough of a tempo advantage, then deal with the secrets.
Having the patience of a saint then, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, yeah, what's a shame now, of course, Osha's going to, at least he had the chain game to kind of cover himself a little bit, not on that retrospect, and even now, at least got a life drinker to kind of heal himself a little bit.
Yeah, the healing on this taunt's quite nice here because it does stop the trade from the 2/1.
He can choose to have a whiteboard whenever, really. Thanks to that Kelesef, of course, if he does get the explosive trap and just do 2-all, then he'd be having a serious issue. But that Kelesef really helped him in more ways than one.
Yeah, so Osha's certainly getting the board advantage here, and Falcone's rapidly losing it. So it could be a case of Falcone just abandons the board completely and tries to get there. He does have a kill command, he does have a bow in hand. He does have Subject 9, which certainly will delay down the line. But choosing not to go for the bow here means he's going for more board tempo rather than more face strategy, because he does lose out on the attack from the 2/1 here. There's more damage that he's going to need down the line.
When you said he was losing it, I thought you meant it's like losing the plot then.
Could be.
Yeah, it could be. Your words, not mine.
I mean, it's the case of, like, how are you trying to win this game? You know that he's got a Kelesef buff deck. You know he's got a buff minion in hand. You know he's got a taunt in hand. Is playing for board a reasonable strategy here?
And even then, you know, Falcone still has explosive trap, got kill command if things get a little bit out of hand, has a snake trap as well. And he does have his weapon, so he can trade a lot. He's got the health for it, but next turn, going to be a pretty big decider for him.
Yeah, there's a lot of damage coming towards Falcone now, so it's likely something defensive is going to happen. Picking up the Spellstone, which is really quite nice because he's going to be playing quite a few secrets this turn. But all of these minions are outside of range of the explosive trap. So it's likely he needs another one to actually be able to deal with this. Going to soften up the board at least a little bit. Hope there's no healing, no buffs, so that at least these 2 minions will die to the explosive if Osha chooses to attack face. Likely going to do it this time. Now, Subject 9 draws one of each type of secret, so if Osha is good at hand tracking, he'll realize that if any of these secrets from hand being played now, he knows that they're not explosive trap.
Yeah, I only feel for him a little bit, of course, with that Keller said that Flame Imp could have gone straight away, including this one, but that won't be the case, and completely refills his board straight away again. And
in the light's name.
So Falcone here looking for that second explosive trap or Deathstalker Rexstar here would be very nice. Even if those do happen, with the health buffs on board already, it's going to be quite hard for him to even deal with this board. I don't think this is going to be enough.
Yeah, I think you could tell from there that Osha was planning on trying to get as much board control as possible from the get-go. One explosive trap wasn't going to do it, let's put it that way. And again, another quick one as well. So, but at least that way doesn't deal with that deck anymore. It's probably one of the decks he's probably finding a bit of a pain. But the thing that Secret Hunter can do a lot more work against these other decks he'll be playing against later on in these next few games.
Yeah, definitely. And that's kind of like the strength of Kelesef there. We saw the explosive trap not really doing much. Had those minions all had one less health, then suddenly it could have been a different story. But yeah, Zoo getting the win there with a Kelesef buff deck is kind of expected, to be honest. A little bit, perhaps in my opinion, shaky play at the start, playing around those secrets. Maybe could have sort of read into it a little bit more, but it worked out in the end for him.
Yeah, it was weird. I think he just wanted to try and get the job done, because at some stage against that Secret Hunter, you need to get it done quick, or else, you know, no, it wouldn't go to fatigue game or anything like that. But in that kind of respect, yeah, that Kelly said would have helped a lot. Obviously, the first Flame would have died. The second one would have, well, could have died, but he didn't put it on the board anyway, because of course, he didn't know what could have happened, but it had 3 health anyway, so didn't really matter. And with that Snake Trap as well, if that's played in anyway, he could have done some trade and then used the Explosive Trap, but he didn't really get time or much, in essence, to actually try and play anything like that, which is, you know, completely understandable. So, but at least he doesn't have to deal with that Zulok anymore, but, you know, still has that Temple Mage floating about still.
Yeah. Tempo Mage against this Hunter could work out quite well for the Mage. The Hunter runs a lot of secrets which you don't actually have to proc, things like Venom Strike, things like Snake Trap. You don't actually have to attack into minions if you're playing a Tempo Mage, so that might work out well for him. But for this matchup, we have the Osha's Secret Hunter this time against Falcone's Token Druid with the Taunt package in there.
Yeah, that Mossy Horror's looking good, and
Ooh.
With that Rexar as well, it's just something else to deal with the Whisper of the Woods and any other bits and pieces which he does get on board as well.
So while Mossy Horror is quite nice for dealing with either Whispering Woods or Spreading Plague in particular, I don't know if you want it straight away. He's deciding, I already have a Secret Keeper, maybe I should keep it. Things like the Spellstone I think would be probably a little bit better for you to get. Mossy Horror is quite nice when that stuff happens, but if you don't have your own board, then it's not really, you know, too much of a big deal.
Yeah, Osha's got a lot of ways to play into this. It's, you know, I know Falcone, the last thing he wanted to see was a was a Secret Keeper against a Secret Hunter. We know how annoying that can be, but, you know, with the Mossy Horror, even though it is 6 mana and it's when we play it till later on, normally you save it for the Whisper Woods or the Plagues anyway, and he's only got 1 in this deck, so, and it could be a good while unless he actually picks it up later on, or even quite soon. So I think that's why you just want to be not safe or greedy, but you just want to keep it there in case it does come to that situation and maybe throw Falcone off guard a bit.
So Osha doesn't actually have a secret, which is really huge right now because right now he's staring at a value trade on his Secret Keeper and he can't do much about it other than using the kill command and the coin to deal with this 3-2, which is quite a lot of resources, because then you'd be forced to maybe play the Blood Knight, which next turn, which you kind of want for the Giggling Inventor. So it could be a case where you maybe just pass and let him, you know, take this value trade. Or Osha's saying, no, I really want to keep this Secret Keeper alive. But it is quite a lot of resources he's using to do that. Using the coin here and the kill command means your future turns are going to be quite gimped.
I think one thing to take into account as well, of course, with that Blood Knight, you know, Falcone's got 2 Giggling Inventors there, and
so
that'll make good use for it later on.
Osha drawing the secret, which is fairly likely. So this is kind of what he's relying on based on his previous play. He's going to say, I'm going to kill command this now, and then hopefully I'll draw something off the top of the deck. Otherwise, I might have to just play this Blood Knight, which seems quite reasonable. There is quite a lot of secrets, and there's things like Animal Companion that you can also draw, or the bow, which would be all fine turn 3 plays.
Yeah, he does have that Wild Growth fair for the time being. He'll have to see if he decides whether to play that or the Giggling Inventor, but if he does, he's going to be in not the greatest spots. Of course, Osha will just play that Blood Knight straight away. No hesitation at all.
Yeah, I imagine this will be a Giggling Inventor, because next turn you can maybe go Wild Growth Branching Paths. Of course, there is quite a huge punish in the form of Blood Knight, and there is this Houndmaster Shore, which looks quite nasty, especially if you expect that Osha might have just kept a Spellstone in his hand, and it's been upgraded. The rushing Wolves from the Spellstone will be enough to deal with this board as well. So it's not just the Blood Knight that he's worried about here.
It's quite a hard one. What would you do in this situation? Would you be tempted to play that Blood Knight, or would you want to continue with that ball control, get quite aggressive and use the Spellstone?
Definitely playing the Blood Knight. There's no guarantee that you're going to see the other Giggling Inventor this game. Getting the 9/9 now down now is really quite huge, and you can use your hero power to clean up this 2/1, and then use the 3/6 and the 9/9 to clean up these 1/2 taunts.
Yeah, it's a very difficult spot for Falcone here, of course. He didn't really have much to begin with, you know, didn't really get the Wild Growth or Nurse or anything like that to kind of help him out to a decent start. He has got one of them, but
so
a bit too late at this kind of extent.
So Osha here Apologies. I thought you could hear about down the 2-1. Of course, you can't do that. He's a hunter, not a druid.
Well, he could be. He just might be in disguise. You don't know.
Yeah. So choosing to try and keep his board quite healthy here, taking value trades where he can.
But even then, like if you look at Falcone's hand, he's he could chain gang, he could branch in time up by 12, but it's just delaying things to buy a turn just a little bit further. Could even giggling inventor again. It's extremely hard in his situation. Like he maybe could chain gang and then hero power to take out the secret keeper at least.
I think that's probably more reasonable than the giggling right now. Giggling is probably going to block this damage. Going for wild growth instead. It's also somewhat reasonable. Probably don't need the mana next turn. But you want to get that wild growth out of the way as soon as possible so you can get your ultimate infestation down. So there's definitely a talking point between wild growth and hero powering down the secret keep, because if another secret comes down, this secret keep is going to be pretty hard to clear in the future.
I do like what he's doing there as well. He's trying to get not only full ball control, but the main reason he's trying to bait out a plague, but he hasn't got one.
Yeah, we do see he's got a Mossy Horror in hand, so if a plague were to come down, it'd be a very, very quick win. And even without that, he does still have the Houndmaster Short, which does a really good job at dealing with some of these defensive taunts if you can rush out your minions just to value trade into them.
I concede.
Yeah, I think he knew from then there wasn't too much he can do, and even around the Mossy Horror, it would have been perfectly fine, and it just needed a plague just to try and hold things off a bit further. But like you said before, he had a lot of options, Osha, from that start, and I think he knew when he got to that stage after like turn 5, turn 6, he knew he was in a very good spot to at least continue on from there. So another quick game. I think in those 3 games, that's the same as the 1 game we saw in that last series, pretty much. Yeah.
I mean, the tech card of the Blood Knight really shining there. Only a 1-of in the Hunter deck, but obviously very powerful when you're facing down a Giggling Inventor. Yeah, definitely got the job done. Yeah,
you can't really complain in that kind of retrospect, can you? It's funny because in quite a few weeks ago, we didn't really see much of the Blood Knight being used. But everyone had it in their deck, but never had the opportunity to not play it, but make any kind of use of it, you could say. So you could say play it. But yeah, no, every single time now, it's been made of great use, you can tell that in those kind of situations, those kind of decks, they don't really have an answer for it. And even if they do, like, by then it'll be way, way too late to actually try and sort it out.
Yeah, I think it's a case of close your eyes and pray they don't have the Blood Knight if you're playing a deck like Token Druid. Unfortunately, did.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. And it's, I think the last deck for Osha now is that Tempo Rogue now. So, Tempo Rogue? What year is it? Tempo Mage, yeah.
So this is the one we're talking about that might be a little bit of a struggle to get through. It is against the Hunter, it probably can do quite well against, I have to say. But against the Druid, it might be a bit more of a struggle with things like Malfurion and things like boards that they have trouble dealing with. Things like branching paths to heal yourself out of range of the burn strategy from the Tempo Mage.
I think one of the main things as well is you can see Falcone's does have 2 swipes, and even if Osha does somehow get quite a big board presence, which isn't quite common in Tempo Mage anyway, has that plague, but won't be, of course, not too much use. It may not be too much use in this game, to be fair.
An incredible discovery!
That's all right. Why have 2 secrets when you can have 3? And 2 counter spells as well. But I think Falcone's happy to get the wild growth turn 2 there.
Thank you, Hearthstone gods, for giving me that.
Oh, yeah, he saw Leroy getting wild growth into Coin Nourish earlier, and then finally Falcone actually gets his first wild growth. Well, to be fair, he did have one last game, but let's be honest, it wasn't really of any use, was it, in all fairness?
So it's interesting what secret Osha chose to play there. He chose the one that wasn't drawn from this 2-3. I don't know whether he thinks that means it's one secret or another. It could sell the story to Falcone that these are 2 different secrets, because generally what most people would do if they have 2 of the same and they've drawn one of them, they'll play the one that they've drawn, because then it gives away less information. But he chose to do the other one, which might have thrown Falcone off here. He might think the other secret is Explosive Runes, which could make the second counterspell even more impactful. Yeah,
it depends which counterspell. What he actually counters overall. As you can see with Osha, he doesn't get a mana worm again, which isn't the biggest of losses at this stage. I think those 2 counter spells there is really going to help in that kind of scenario, and it wouldn't surprise me if he does put that sorcerer down and get another one on the board.
I think he's debating whether he wants to draw cards here or play the counter spell. He knows that Falcone still has a coin in hand.
Someday I'll be just like you.
And Magic's going for card draw. It's particularly when you have a secret in hand. You might be drawing things like Kirin Tor Mage, and that'll allow you to play the secret free anyway down the line. So in terms of overall mana usage, it's better not to play the secret now if you're going to be drawing cards. But of course, it makes him a bit weaker here to things like swipe, just to clean up this board.
I think he's going to kind of wish maybe he used it now, but even then he's got a second swipe, which
yeah, if you use it then, it would have just let him have 1 minion live because the counter spell would have gone off on the coin, but he would have had less cards in hand, so his next turn would have looked a lot weaker.
I'm just waiting to see what he's got now. So he does have 2 fireballs, so you could say he's kind of got the ingredients, but he hasn't got the minions to play. And you know, even though he's got a couple of secrets there to kind of help him out a little bit, he knows he's.
Yeah, this is a hand you want on turn like 7 or 8, not on turn 5.
Turn 5, yeah.
Yeah, this is when you got all the burn in hand. It's like, oh, why do I have all this burn? I want minions. He's drawing them all in the wrong order.
Yeah, I think he's a bit annoyed with that second swipe. It's like, oh, when I put that counter spell down now. But to be fair, actually, I'm sure there's a lot of better things he can counter rather than just another swipe anyway.
So again, no minions for Osha. So it's going to be very hard for him to actually, you know, get through the Druid, because the Druid has lots of defensive tools available, even just pure armor gain. We all know that Druids armor up better than warriors nowadays. So actually getting there with just a burn strategy is not very viable. He needs to have minions to kind of stick and do repetitive damage. Of course, he hasn't got any minions in hand.
No, absolutely zilch, pretty much. And yeah, it's sad times, really, because you can, well, let's be honest, it's best to have some ball control, isn't it, in all fairness? And because he's got nothing to play, he's just trying to think of other ways just to kind of cushion the blow a bit more against...
Interesting, he's going for a ping here. I think he's trying to max damage. He decided to play explosive runes over counterspell. Malfurion's a huge pickup here. Falcone's looking pretty happy about that.
He's thinking, okay, that's why I'm more than happy to arm up for 3 each turn whilst you try and figure out a way to take me out.
Yeah, I think this card like pretty much knocks tempo mages out of the game. Not only makes really kind of a big board that ruins things like Cinderstorm, but that hero power just kind of out-heals them completely.
Yeah, when you kind of get to a stage where in the spot Falcone's now in terms of like his health and how he's doing, and in terms of his defensive hand and what he can do, because of course he's got that chain gang and the plague. He's got other options as well. Of course, he can arm up for 3 each turn. He's got the branching, so that's another 12. And even with that Whispering Gods, he's still worried to play it because he knows there's a few cards there which, and including the secret you're talking about, where it's fair, but he just hasn't played it yet. And Falcone could be thinking to himself, well, you know what, if I play Whisper of the Woods, then he might just play that explosive trap. But even then, it won't make too much difference for him, considering the fact that he'll have plenty more later on.
I think Falcone's strategy from now is pretty clear. It's play Stone, Saronite Chain Gang and Strong Soul Scavenger, just make a big board and start killing the face. Then he's got ways to proc a counterspell if it were to come down, and ways to armor up with his hero power. Surprisingly, he's going for Whispering Woods here. I think just Saronite plus Strong Shell would just completely end the game here. This might just do it anyway. Probably going for Branching Path lethal on the follow-up.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Literally, of course, 21 on board. And another 3 hero power. This pretty much got the job done, because of course Osha now hasn't really got anything else to trying to heal him or do any kind of damage. He hasn't had a minion in quite a while now. I think since, what, turn 5? Maybe something like that, and he hasn't had anything since.
I mean, he has Alanef now, which is probably what he has to go for. He might be worried about this board and maybe thinking I have to Cinderstorm this because I'm worried about things like Savage Roar just killing me.
But then again, you've got the counter spell as well, so if he does try and go for that lethal, then it will probably hold him back for a bit.
The thing with Osha, he has a choice. He can either deal with this board or he can develop his own strategy better by going for an Alanef. If he just deals with this board now and goes for Alanef next turn, then he's suddenly opened up things like UI from the Druid. And it might be too late to get a win that way. So definitely a case of, should I play for board now or should I go for my plan? So he's gone kind of in between, played around a bit of the board by using that spell there to kill 3 of them and developing the Alanef. Of course, if Falcone went for the Chain Gangs plus Stronghill Scavengers, I have a really hard time saying that word.
Oh, no, it's fine. I've not actually noticed until you looked at me and went, I can't say this word.
Every time it feels like such a challenge.
That's why I barely know English, so it's fine.
But yeah, I think if he just goes for this, it would just lock Osha out of the game completely. He does have a branching paths in hand to just gain 12 armor at any point, and he's going to have a board that's just far too big for Osha to be able to deal with. And he has got more than enough health total, ways to proc the counterspell in hand. He's completely fine. This probably is winning as well. Gives Osha some ways to kind of come back into it with maybe like a glyph. Go with glyph Flame Strike, for instance.
Yeah, I'm just looking now, and I think Osha's trying to figure out the same. Of course, he finally gets a couple of minions, but even then it might not be too much to good use. And like I mentioned before, that counter spell, at least will stop him from maybe using branching or something like that. But then again, Falcone can just use Wild Growth just to bait it out and then get rid of it and then play extra afterwards and get lethal. But
so this is potentially quite a powerful turn to do this, and then maybe go for the Cinderstorm here to clean up these 1/1s.
It's a shame as well, because he's got 2 plagues, but like I mentioned before, you know, Osha's been struggling to get minions for himself, let alone try and get any plagues on board for Falcon. So there's going to be dead cards for now until we can actually do something with him later on. But even then, it's pretty dead from the start.
So Osha probably thinking about trying to play this counterspell now is a nod to turn 10 coming up from Falcone. Falcone hasn't had the most crazy plays recently, so Osha might have a read that there's an ultimate infestation in hand, and we know there isn't. But I can definitely understand why he's going for this rather than the Cinderstorm here. But it might be a case of you should probably make use of your spell power while you have it.
Yeah, no, you're right. You've got to try and do something with it, because you know he's had it for a while. We could have used it earlier, but even if he did use it earlier, it would have only stopped him from using one more swipe, and even then, it wouldn't change the outcome at all. And I did mention that as well. I did say that, you know, he'll probably will use that Wild Growth just to bait out the counter spell, which he's done, which is good. So, and he's going to continue to trade.
I mean, here, Falcone could go for another buff with the Scavenger again to save his minion's life there. Again, he's kind of a bit hesitant. Maybe he's thinking he wants to go Giggling Inventor plus the second Scavenger next turn. He seems to still be winning this game. Regardless, he has so many options available to him, which all seem to lead to a victory. He's just kind of sort of choosing which one he wants.
Yeah, he's basically saying, how am I going to win this?
Yeah.
Blizzard is actually not too much of a bad shout for him in this kind of state. Of course, Frost Nova's not too bad, but it doesn't do any damage, but at least it'll keep him at bay. But even then, it's won't be too bad if he chose that Blizzard card.
Yeah, I think Blizzard's pretty good here. It kills most of this board. Leave 2 health available, and then you can do things like Cinderstorm, and then suddenly you've got board control again. And this is one of the problems of Falcone's kind of slow play. If we go back to his turn 8, he could have just simply developed Saronite and buffed his board and then started pushing lethal. It's given Osha quite a few turns to get back into this. If he just goes for a Cinderstorm here, and maybe, I don't know, Frostbolt, maybe Arcanologist, should be alright.
Yeah, absolutely right. It's definitely got him back into it, and he's not really too far off. As you can see, he does have a Fireball there, does have 2 Mana Worms there now, so at least he can get something on the board. But if he does throw these minions out all willy-nilly, but maybe a Plague will actually be of some kind of use. But that Giggling Inventor is so tempting.
Yeah. So he has the choice between killing this 3/2 or buffing up this Giggling Inventor. Quite the choice. Oh, he can't kill the 3/2. Sorry, he's frozen. My bad. So I imagine we're going to see this Giggling Venter get buffed here from the strong shell scavenger. Oh, he's just going for armor instead. Okay, he's just going for that outlast them strategy again.
Yeah, he seems to be quite scared in that respect, and those arcane missiles now can really do something. If he gets those mana worms down as well, that will be very cost effective.
Yeah. Of course, the further he falls behind on board, the better spreading plague gets. So it's not the worst thing if you're not contesting this board that well now, because you can do something like spreading plague plus the scavenger for like a bunch of 3/7 taunts, which is really quite strong.
Yeah, just looking now, we will go for that counter spell instead of the arcane missiles. The middle one, I think the Ruby Spellstone, I think the only way you can actually upgrade it is with elementals from the top of my head. So that's literally, well, let's be honest, it's pretty pointless unless he wants to try and play that card for one spell.
And counterspell is a really good pickup here because Falcone is going to be wanting to play Spreading Plague. So it's going to be quite hard for Falcone to both play a spell and the Spreading Plague with the mana available that he has.
See, with the board Osha has now, this is the kind of stuff I see at turn 3 or 4. Not turn like 13 or 14, but you're right though, you know, Falcone's played quite slow. I think he's just trying to be playing quite careful because, of course, he is only one game away from potentially being eliminated, and that that plague now has become very useful.
Yeah. So, how much does Falcone respect counterspell here? And it looks like quite a lot. He could just use the branching paths for armor if this, you know, doesn't do anything, and that's not actually the worst use of a turn.
And he's got another one anyway, so he's pretty much doing its job. And I think he's just going to try and play him into fatigue until Osha does tap out.
Yeah, so now with fatigue looming, Osha really needs to win with this board, which he might be able to do so. He does have this spell power, which allows him to get through some of these taunts a bit easier. Once these mana worms get buffed up by one of these spells, they're going to have 5 attacks, so they can one-shot some of these taunts. Of course, something like a swipe would just ruin him. But from here, it might be a case of I don't really care. That's what I need to go in for this. And if this board does stick, there is a lot of damage coming through from Osha in the follow-up.
Yeah, Falcone hasn't really got too much to defend himself afterwards. Don't get me wrong, he's got another plague. He's got branching as well still, so he can at least arm up for 12 or at least try and boost his plague minions. But even then, he won't have to boost it too much since the fact that most of them are either on 2 or 3 health anyway. So maybe just boosting it just by 1 and then arming for 6 after wouldn't be too much of a shout.
Ooh. So it was a little bit greedy from Osha there, I think. He could have used the fireball on one of the 1/5s and missed out on a little bit of damage, or he could have attacked the mana worm into it. He got kind of punished a bit with bad RNG, leaving 2 things on 1 health in the end there. Made it quite hard for him to get through. Of course, he kind of wanted to kill off the Sorcerer's Apprentice to play around second Spreading Plague. Perhaps didn't want to damage his mana worm to worry about this as well.
Yeah, I love that though. You can see Falcone's just relieved in that respect anyway.
a lot closer than I initially thought it was going to be once that Malfurion came down. Falcone played a little bit too slow in my opinion, but he got the win anyway. Yeah,
I think when he got to that point where it's 3/4 way through the game, I think he just knew that, you know, he's played so slow, he just needs to put him into fatigue and then he should be perfectly fine due to the Mage's Alaneth anyway. And I think another thing as well is the fact that, you know, those plagues were completely dead towards the end, and he knew that the only way they can probably come back is the fact that at some point he's going to put both those mana worms down, use as many spells as he can, and then try and come back from there. But yeah, sadly it just wasn't to be. It's probably just a little bit too late in that kind of retrospect.
Yeah, just a little bit. But it was a valiant effort, I would say. He got quite close in the end there. Falcone, of course, needed a few extra defensive tools to get him over the edge. Just about did it. It's going to go to another game 5.
I know. What is it with his game 5, mate? Well, to be fair, last one was a game 4, but
yeah.
it felt like a game 5.
Game 5
how
in
long it went.
spirit.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. But as you can see now, so we do have the Tempo Mage versus... Oh, I didn't say Tempo Mage then. Tempo Mage versus the Secret Hunter now. And yeah, this is going to be quite a weird one, just due to the fact that it depends what Falcone starts with. And you never know, Osha might actually start with a Mana Worm for a change, rather than actually... doing if anything else, because he hasn't been, you know, has been a little bit unlucky in that department. Every time I play one, they seem to have 1 or 2, and it's just a complete ball ache, really. But hopefully, at this stage, he might actually find one in his mulligan at some point.
I mean, he's due. He's due. He's missed out the Mana Worm train for far too long.
He has, hasn't he? Yeah, it's gone a little bit beyond the joke now. And
Osha said, "No Mana Worms in my hand. I'm gone." And he's back now.
But Falcone does have the Secret Keeper and a Secret with him, so that's not too bad in all fairness. That kill command, it depends on
1 into 2. I like it.
Yeah, into 3 maybe.
Much better. Probably don't need the kill command, but the rest is fine. But Osha, he's got an okay hand. He has 2 2-drops. He could maybe coin 1 out.
Oh, okay.
Double Secret Keeper.
Oh, it's hey, Osha, it's gonna hate to see it. It's I was gonna say, because when I first saw Falcone's face when he saw what he had, it was like, and I was like, mate. That's pretty good. You know, that can't be too bad. But with 2 Secret Keepers now, he's going to
So it's an interesting choice here for Osha. He goes for Arcanologist over the Apprentice. Of course, if he was facing down a Secret, he can't trade into this 1-2 with the 2-3. As it'll be a 2-3.
I'll never tell.
But with a 3-2, he could do that. Falcone decided not to go for the Secret, and instead going for another 1-drop. This allows a value trade, which is kind of not great. If you're trying to be greedy with these buffing these Secret Keepers, it's not really going to work, because of course Osha is going to kill one of them off. It kind of just makes your curve a little bit worse in the future, and it doesn't really gain you too much right now. Say you're to draw another Secret next turn, you can't play Wandering Monster and the Secret like we see here. But if you had kept a 1-drop in hand, you could play 1-drop plus Secret, and then you'd be much more flexible with your and more efficient with your mana usage. So I think a little bit of a mismanagement, in my opinion, on the early turns from Falcone, for not too much benefit.
Yeah, it was quite difficult playing. It's of course, there's only 2 things you could have done in the scenario. It's hard to say if it was the wrong one or not. You probably are right, considering the circumstances he was in. And even now, it's going to be quite hard. But Osha does have that counter spell again, does have a chance to get another Secret as well on top of that.
So he's got to choose whether he attacks here. In my opinion, probably not. There is things like Venom Strike, Snake Traps. You probably don't want to be attacking into this 1-3 straight away. You probably got to think about what Secret you want to play. I don't think you want to play the counter spell right now. Animal Companion likely would have come down on this turn. Maybe not, because the Secret did buff the Secret Keeper, which is something to keep note of.
Yeah, and he's only got that freezing trap, so Falcone's going to really want something decent coming out of this next turn. One
thing Explosive Runes does is soften the blow a little bit against Houndmaster, which is likely Falcone's best play. So if you go for Kirin Tor Explosive Runes, you can kind of contest that a bit more on board. And maybe you can clean up in a couple turns. So deciding to bump this because of Houndmaster, I mean, but you also play really hard into some of the minion-based secrets. You really don't want to be activating snakes right now, for instance.
And with that Houndmaster as well, it's not going to be too much.
Houndmaster Shore's not great here because we know there's an Explosive Runes, but there's not much else you can do. If you want to play Subject 9 next turn, that's going to get destroyed by the Explosive Runes. So it's either your Shore gets destroyed now, or your Subject 9 gets destroyed next turn. So you just kind of got to just take it there.
Yeah, it's one of those situations you just got to take it on the chin, really, isn't it? It's a shame that he had to lose that card so early on. It would have been extremely handy for him, especially in the mid-game, but...
So again, Osha choosing to attack face, and he's really quite annoyed here because he would have liked to play the Cosmic Anomaly here, I'm sure. Instead, he's probably going to have to do something like Counterspell plus Shooting Star. That will at least stop the Spellstone initially. Although you do have quite a good answer with Cosmic Anomaly plus Shooting Star on the follow-up if you had to see a Spellstone.
What to do? What to do?
Yeah, Osha's probably dreaming it was that turn 5 now, doesn't he? That respect, but yeah, he's in a pretty tough spot. He may have to use. He's got 2 anyway, but sadly, we'll have to use at least 1 just to try and get rid of it.
I imagine he'll use 1 here, just for tempo.
Funny enough, both these players haven't had the best of draws. You know, even though Falcone did have those 2 Secret Keepers and a Secret, he couldn't really make much work out of it, which was a bit of a shame, really.
Decides not to. Of course, he knows that if a Spellstone were to come down, he would get counterspell, so he's not that worried about that. Subject 9 is a worry for him because it now means Cosmic Anomaly doesn't actually clear it, which is kind of a problem.
Job done.
Potentially, he could clear it now with Arcane Missiles if everything hits.
You'd think so.
I think more likely what's going to happen is he's going to go for maybe 1 Shooting Star or maybe the Arcane Missiles this turn. And then he's going to go in with the Anomaly on the turn after.
Yeah, I think at the moment he's just trying to figure exactly what order he wants to put in at the moment. It's pretty tough, and I suppose all those secrets Falcone has now, it's going to be
unexpected
massive pain.
Results. If this Anomaly were to survive somehow, because we do know that Falcone's hands full of secrets, which are things that you don't actually have to interact with. If he doesn't have a bow, if he doesn't have a kill command, unexpected results can give him quite a huge board if this Anomaly were to stick on the follow-up. Imagine that's probably what he's going to go for. Polymorph and Cone of Cold aren't that amazing right now.
Yeah, maybe Polymorph later on, but even then it's not really too much difference. At least with Cone of Cold, you can kind of like delay things a little bit until necessary anyway.
So Falcone knows there's a counter spell up, so he's going to choose what secret I think is the least valuable here. Decides to go for Venom Strike's Trap as he has another one in hand anyway.
No, it's definitely the right play. It's no, sometimes it can be a tough one, but at least now Falcone's managed to get some kind of ball control.
Well, not for long because this Anomaly is going to swing it.
See you later.
And if this sticks, he's going to get 2 4-drops out of it with this unexpected results afterwards. So
it was nice for the time being, though, wasn't it?
No way for Falcone to clear it. Of course, he has secrets like Freezing Trap, Snake Trap, etc., which do punish the attacks. But Osha, if he's smart, knows that the value of the spell power on this minion is much better than the actual attack of it, and expects something like Freezing Trap will probably come down here, so he's unlikely to fall for that.
Yeah, obviously from early, he's going to know he's going to have at least 1 Freezing Trap in his deck. He'll put that down, but it's like you mentioned before, he has no reason to move that 4-3 in any way, shape or form. And even then, he can still take out the 3-2 with the Frostbolt anyway.
Yeah, and he's going to get 2 4-drops from the unexpected results here, which is potentially quite huge.
It's a tough decision to make, but to be fair, Osha knows exactly what he's playing against. Even if it isn't a Freezing Trap, he knows that it will charge that minion in, it's going to lose it one way or another, so it'll just be pointless.
Not the worst, not the worst. Obviously, a 5-1 could be cleaned up by a deck with lots of pings, but against Secret Hunter, they don't really have that. Explosive Trap's a good way of doing it. Candle Shot could do it as well. But otherwise, that is pretty solid 4-drops, considering some of the low rolls that you can get.
Yeah, we've seen some bad things in our time, haven't we?
I can't tell you how many times I get the darkness. It's insane. These random effects. I swear it just follows me everywhere. Decides to attack, which I'm not sure is the best choice here, to be honest.
I was a little bit surprised by that, actually. I thought he was literally just going to keep it on board.
He has to expect one of these secrets deal with it. Either a Wandering Monster, Freezing Trap, etc., etc. You really don't want to be proccing that right now. You could just use one of these other minions on the following turn. I think that's playing a bit too fast. Having that 4-3, he knows there's no way to actually deal with it. There's no minions alive on board to deal with it. If he just leaves it on there, it's just a threat on its own.
Yeah, you can see Osha there was a little bit tempted to get some card draw, but he knew he had to at least try and clear some on the board one way or another. Does have explosive trap anyway if things do get a little bit out of hand, but with that 3-5 it's going to be pretty difficult for him. But Hellmaster wouldn't be too bad just to try and back him off a little bit and also trade the other minion with the 5-1.
So it's interesting. I think he'd probably want to be going face here and using like Hellmaster plus a freezing trap. Maybe a Venom might strike trap, but probably not. Probably something like Hero Power. I think a freezing trap here makes a lot of sense.
Job done.
It's going for explosive instead, which to me doesn't make much sense because it's really unlikely Osha's going to be attacking face right now.
I know what you're thinking, James. You're thinking, only if I was in this spot. I
know. Well, don't worry, I have my own bad plays, which has got me here.
Back on the desk. It's all right. It's understandable. Osha's going to go for that card draw. Does get 2 Frostbolts, but does get his weapon in the end. So at least he won't be worried about card draw for the next, for the rest of this game. So this is where Falcone could struggle a little bit.
I mean, certainly this board from Osha is going to do a lot of face damage pretty soon. Of course, he would have to decide what secret it's going to be. Here's an explosive, which is probably fine for him. He's getting quite low on health, so something like an Eagle Hawk bow come down. Once both Frostbolts have been used, it might be a bit scary for him.
Job done.
I'm just trying to think of anything which Falcone could actually do to...
That was pretty good.
That was? Yeah, that was all right to me.
Not bad draw. When you got 9 mana and 2 secrets.
Yeah, that's all right in all fairness, but that's the thing with Osha's card draw, though. If he gets that weapon down, it's...
I mean, card draw's a bit too slow here. He's facing down 4 wolves. There's a Venom Strike and a Freezing Trap already up. It's going to be really hard for Osha to actually deal with this board and the hero power from the Hunter. There's nothing in hand that does it.
So we can trade at least 2 of them off anyway, but even then, straight afterwards,
there's
he's
8 damage,
got lethal.
8 damage on board and a hero power.
Yeah, so he's pretty much done. Gonzo, mate.
He is done. There's no way out.
Oh, that's a shame, really. It's a shame that weapon didn't come any earlier, but he had to keep some presence on that board to kind of keep Falcone at bay. And
I think this game, Osha just did himself a disservice by attacking into secrets too quickly. There was multiple instances in this series he's been doing it, and it's really come to bite him in this game, losing that spell power minion.
Do you feel like he's just trying to play a game of trying to get rid of the secrets as early as possible rather than leaving it for later to
I think it was
try and gain tempo later on?
He was just impatient this game, when patience is the name of the game against Secret Hunter. You have to know when you have to be aggressive and when you have to be patient. And he was in control of the board and decided to just attack into those secrets, and it's really punished him here, and it's going to cost him the game.
Yeah, that counter spell would have been alright earlier, which is a shame, but...
Falcone's going to do it. He's going to get the hero power in. He's going to book his spot in the final. Yeah,
he's managed to win that game 5, and Falcone managed to... Things looked a little bit bleak at one stage, but managed to take it anyway, so fantastic play by him. Had a bit of patience. Sadly for Osha, one tiny little mistake which made of cost him in the end. As you can say, as you mentioned before, like when it delayed a bit more further, and that counter spell could have maybe helped things a little bit sooner anyway, but it came a little bit too late in that retrospect. But yeah, Falcone managed to qualify for the top 8 for EGS. It's quite crazy stuff considering how good position Osha was to begin with, in all fairness.
I mean,
apart from the Man at Worms.
I mean, that's the way it goes. I mean, you have to make sure your play is tight all the way through, and in the case with Osha, I don't think it was.
That's right, and now you can see Falcone has qualified for the top 8 for EGX, going 3-2 overall. Wins against Osha 3-2, and as you can see from there, Osha does get eliminated going to